We just had a brand new teaser release for Sonic Frontiers: The Final Horizon, and I feel as though there's enough information here, even though it's a minute long, to really talk about, because we kinda got a bit of information from the little segments they showed. Join me as today we do a story teaser breakdown. Also, if you like content like this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the video, as it would go a super long way. Without further ado, let's kick off to the opening of the teaser with Sage.
Of my millions of calculations, there was one so remote and unlikely I did not consider it. However, it could be the one to save us all.
Now, if you remember correctly, the entirety of Sonic Frontiers, Sage is spending time trying to figure out how to successfully and safely get Eggman to escape cyberspace and also not be threatened by any of the creatures that have now entered the Starfall Island, such as, the End. While all of that is happening, Sonic is trying to free all of his friends from cyberspace, which causes the awakening of the End. I shouldn't even say awakening, it's more like unleashing of the End. Either way, what I'm getting at here is I believe that in this scene here, Sage is talking about the possibility of Sonic's friends being set free in order to help Sonic take down the End, which I believe we're going to get into more later, but they are revising the final story for the game. The whole last island, I think, is going to get a total different change to it. So, with Sage saying that she sees a new possibility that was so far out there that she didn't even consider it, it's the fact that Sonic is going to be able to work with his friends to basically save the world. Alright, now moving on to the scene with Amy Rose.
Do you know what happened to the Chaos Emeralds?
Amy appears to be back on the Kronos Islands as she's talking to Coco about what happened to the Chaos Emeralds. We know now that according to the events of the game, the characters are able to communicate with them, especially characters like Amy, Tails, and Knuckles. We haven't seen Sonic do this yet, but I'm sure it'll happen eventually. But going back to the Chaos Emeralds here, I believe something is going to happen, then maybe they experience some sort of cyber corruption in order for Sonic to unlock this new form that we see at the end of the first teaser trailer that we saw a little bit ago. Also, it looks like Amy is holding tarot cards, which she famously uses in games like Sonic CD, so perhaps this will be in some way, shape, or form involved in her character's story within the progression of this game. Maybe it'll be in her moveset or something, I don't know. And now it's time for Knuckles the Echidna's turn.
Sonic handled 4 islands in this mess. I'm not going down to just one.
Personally, I think Knuckles' trailer, or Knuckles' part of the trailer, is the most important one because it gives us a bit more indication of how the characters will be used. Knuckles says that Sonic handled 4 islands, and I'm not going down to just one. So this tells me that the characters will be playable in one island. I'm not sure if they'll be playable like outside the story in others, but it looks like in terms of the story, they'll only be available in one. Or what I had just thought about is you have Amy back in Kronos Islands, you have Knuckles in Ares, and you have Tails, which we'll talk about later, is in the Chaos Islands. Maybe you have to go back and play as those characters in those islands again in order to progress forward to play as this new super form version of Sonic. And if we go strictly by what Knuckles just said in that little clip there, Sonic has already done 4 of the islands, that being Kronos, Ares, Chaos, and Rhea. So maybe at this point they're at the end of Rhea Island where they're all kind of just standing on that last tower, and instead of like freeing Sonic from the cyberspace like they do when they make that whole circle thing around him, instead maybe like the Chaos Emeralds scatter somewhere and all of the characters have to go to each of their own individual islands that they came from and, get them again for Sonic in Oranos. Alright, moving on to Tails now.
Every time I interact with cyberspace, I'm getting more corrupted.
I think this one is really self-explanatory. I think Tails is going through the exact same thing that Sonic went through, because when he's holding on to that purple thing where he basically gives up the memory tokens or whatever like Sonic did with all the other characters when freeing them, he basically gets more cyber corrupted, obviously, as he just said. But the question I think really here is what's inside of that bubble, and I think it's the Chaos Emeralds. I think the Chaos Emeralds are going to go from island to island at this point and eventually get freed to their entirety, but still have that cyber corruption on them maybe, and then Sonic will use them and become Cyber Supersonic or something along those lines. And now it's on to the final part of the teaser, which is extremely self-explanatory. It's just Sonic telling his friends to basically stick by his side, and they'll get through this all together. This part is basically the beginning of the first teaser that we saw a little bit ago. The only difference between the two teasers is that they're in different time periods. So for example, the first teaser that we saw where Sonic shows off that new form, that takes place after the events of the characters already freeing all of the Chaos Emeralds out of those little purple, sphere type things and unlocking them and taking on their cyberspace forms again. Whereas the new teaser that we saw today takes place prior to those events, where before they unlock the Chaos Emeralds, and now they're in the process of doing that. And with that, I hope you understand the Sonic Frontiers story teaser a little bit better. That said and done, thank you all so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?